Hi, you beautiful souls. So I'm making my way back to social media, and I've been tagged a couple of times on things that have been happening here. And I have something to say, but I'm going to come at this a little differently because that's what I do. And this tweet from Nikki Haley gives me the opportunity to do so. Nikki tweeted, "Do you remember when you were growing up? Do you remember how simple life was, how easy it felt? It was about faith, family, and country. We can have that again, but to do that, we must vote Joe Biden out." So let's talk about why this is a sexist, racist, homophobic, transphobic, xenophobic tweet, and why this has everything to do with your patriarchal indoctrination into your religion, your culture, your family, your education. Especially for those of us who are decolonizing and deconstructing our faith, this is an important conversation. The notion of the good old days oftentimes romanticizes a time when things are said to have been simpler. But those kinds of statements also overlook the struggles of the marginalized groups. These simpler times was a time when these historically oppressed groups faced widespread discrimination and had limited rights. And it's these nostalgic views that tend to reinforce traditional gender roles, racial hierarchies, and heteronormative standards. And it simply glosses over the hard-fought struggles of people who have fought for social justice and equity over time. And it completely whitewashes our history because who is the keeper of those heteronormative standards and those traditional gender roles? Primarily the white Christian man. And throughout time, who has benefited from that patriarchal structure? Well, it's been anybody who has been in close proximity to the white Christian man. And so for those of us who grew up within proximity of this patriarchal structure, deconstructing and decolonizing means that we have to accept the fact that we benefited from that structure in some way. And this is a continual process. We always have to be looking how we're showing up in spaces so that we do not show up entitled in a way that suppresses the voice of the historically oppressed. Because we're not talking ancient history now. In my lifetime, Black people who may have been free were not free to just walk down the street and not be beholden to a white person who demanded to know where they were going, where they worked, and where they lived. And if they refused, they suffered dire consequences. So there are Black people here today who have those lived experiences. Their lived experiences are going to be entirely different than ours. And by ours, I mean people who look like me. So what does that mean for us? It means that we, as white people, need to be really, really careful when we show up in public spaces and we tell people how they should think, how they should live, or how they should react to anything that's happening in the world. And why is that? Because our lived experiences, our values, our moral code is going to be entirely different than someone else's whose ancestors have been harmed by these systems of oppression. Because here's the crazy thing, people like Nikki Haley are sending out these coded tweets that aren't very coded, that are incredibly racist and homophobic and transphobic and xenophobic, because she wants people to know that as a white woman, she is standing in her patriarchal indoctrination, and she plans to use that entitlement to wield her power in a position of influence through her elected office. And it's a small jump from that kind of toxic tweet to anything we put out on social media. So why am I saying all this? Because I'm just asking you, I'm inviting you to pause for a minute and think about your own content and how it may be reflecting your indoctrinated beliefs because they're your lived experiences, but how they might be actually gatekeeping another's. Deconstructing and decolonizing is a lifelong journey, and I'm still on it myself. It's never over, and we're invited to continue to go into a deeper understanding of how our lived experiences are impacting how we see and view the world and how we show up. It's good to be back. I've missed you.